it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring some products from Pink Fresh Studios. I'm using the Always Smiling stamps, dies, and stencils, and then I'm also using this diagonal stitch rectangle die. This video is, well, it isn't for it, but it's in coordination with a blog hop for the release. Let's talk about what I'm doing real quick and then we'll go over the details of the blog hop. So here I want to create an all-over background. And so when I want to create an all-over background, one of the first things that I start with is stamping the center of my card front. So then that way I can fill out around the edges and everything is covered versus starting to stamp the edges first. And then maybe I end up with a kind of awkward open middle area where I can't fit anything into it. So that's just tip number one for building up these backgrounds. So this is the Essentials release, which means it has a bunch of essentials, dies, rectangles, squares. I think there's some hexagons in there. Here, what you see me doing is I have dogs. I somehow managed to get a dog hair stuck to my photopolymer stamp. So I was just pulling it off there before I moved it to stamp it again. So for this one, since I am using a MISTI stamp positioner, I move my paper around and then move my stamp accordingly to let it kind of hang off the edge. Because as you can see, sometimes I don't need a whole lot of the stamp. You can also do this with an acrylic block, which then, it is one shot. Like that's all you get is one shot. You can't stamp multiple times like I am here, but it is a little bit faster. So you just kind of have to decide for yourself which one works better. Each time I'm moving the stamp, I am cleaning it off. And that's just to make sure when I'm setting it down, and because there is quite a bit of wiggling it about, that I'm not transferring any ink to my card front. So anywho, blog hop, and they're giving away 10 $25 gift certificates along the hop, they're picking from the commenters. So if you would like to hop along, that will be linked below if you're watching on YouTube, and they will pull the winners and announce them on November 13th. So you have you have some time to kind of get around and see all the great, inspiration that all the designers, Pink Fresh's designers, always knock it out of the park. They're fantastic. So you might think that like essentials would be a little bit boring, like, oh, that's not really that exciting. But two things: they're called essentials for a reason because they do make your making so much easier. Like they are essential to making it an easier process or a more enjoyable process. So they have all different kinds of shapes, which really you can extend out to do other things. And that's what I love. Like I love that those dies give me the opportunities to do that. But one of the things about Pink Fresh and why they do it so well is it's not, and I'm not poo-pooing, basic dies by any means, like basic circles, rectangles, or anything like that, because I think those are fantastic too. But they always have like a little added flair, like a little added detail. Like the ones I'm using today have this diagonal stitch. They also have like a blanket stitch. They have all these little kind of things that just make them a little bit extra, and I love that. So here is the first way we're going to be doing our rainbow inking. I have pulled out a rainbow of colors from my inks, and then typically I'm pulling out the inks that are either the second or third color in these packs. Pink Fresh does them like the mini ink cube pack so that they all work together. And then I'm going to be using my 1/2-inch brushes and the larger ones. They really put down a lot of color really well. So with this one, obviously we have our stencil in place, and then from here, we're picking our colors and we're choosing to put colors next to each other that are going to work well together. So yellow and pink create orange. Those are going to work really nicely together. Purple and pink are going to work really nicely together, so we're putting those next to each other. And I'm kind of moving that up into that space where I know I can put my blue, which will work both with the purple, the pink, and the yellow. That's why I always say I think blue's a neutral. Blue is my boyfriend. He is beautiful. And look, it doesn't just bring the whole thing together. Like when you put that blue down, I love it. So then from there, I'm going to add in the greens. The greens are obviously going to work very nicely with the yellows and the blues. And then once I have that color down, I'm going to go ahead and remove this first stencil. So from here, now I'm moving on to the next stencil, which is going to give me more flowers to kind of fill in, as well as some of the detail layers. So I'm paying attention to the colors that are below as well. I'm not necessarily repeating the same colors over top of them in every instance, but I am paying attention. So maybe where I put the blue before, that would be a good place for me to put the purple or the pink, or where I put the pink before, that would be a place for me to put the purple or the yellow as the accent color. And then here, bringing in that orange. And then this is just going to make sure everything plays really nicely together and we end up with a true rainbow and not with mud flowers, basically. For the centers, I chose to go with the yellow and then a little bit of the orange, just to kind of switch it up a little bit. And then for the kind of detail layer with the leaves, again, I still want them to be rainbows, but I did try to stick a little bit more to like leaf colors just so it would make a little bit more sense. So I used the green, the yellow, and the blue. Having 3 different colors does allow us to, still use leaf-like colors, but play around with that rainbow idea as well. And you can layer these, however you like. Just like I said, you want to pay attention to complementary colors, because when you mix complementary colors, they do make brown. And there are some cases, in here, because you can't control it 100%, where I do have like orange that laid over a little bit of blue, which those are complementary colors. For the most part, it's okay as long as it's just kind of here and there, that you don't have to worry too much. But if you have a large area, you might get a little muddy. So here, this is the detail layers for the leaves, as well as those little teeny tiny flowery bits on the edges. So I am using, some pinks or oranges to fill in those as well. And I ended up doing 2 of these, 2 of the full stamped floral image, because I knew that I was going to be making multiple cards. I didn't know I was going to be making 3, but I knew I was going to be making at least 2, just because of the idea that I had for the first card was going to give me an extra piece. So the next way that we're going to do the rainbow ink blending is, this is the stamped panel that we have. And instead of using all of the stencils to layer up our color, we're just going to go straight in on top of the stamping and add our colors, add our ink blending. We're not doing like, tons of different shading or anything like that. We're just adding the colors that we've been using. So here I started with the yellow, and I pay attention the same way, to where I'm putting down the ink. So I've put down the yellow. Now I know that the pink is going to work really nicely with the yellow, so I'm going to go ahead and put them next to each other. I am trying to be conscientious about the center, because I do have to have a color to put in the center that's kind of going to work with everything that's touching. And I will play with this a little bit more than with the stencils, because the stencils already kind of do the work for you of, the layering bits to add color. Here, I want to make sure that I have good coverage, that I have bold color, and that they're really well blended with each other. So this is, like doing this particular like random ink blending, I think we've all been doing for quite some time. I'm going to do a little bit of a technique I've done before to make it look a little bit more dramatic today. But this is something you could use this panel just like this. You could do the technique without the drama and it would still be very pretty. So, we talked a little bit about the blog hop, the essentials. That's what I wanted to talk about. So like here, I already knew going in just from like the essentials dyes. I already own, quite a few, just because it's so helpful to be able to do exactly what we're going to do today, which is get 2-for-1 cards. So if you have those die cuts, you end up with 2 pieces that you can use separately. And I'm just a big fan of stretching my supplies and kind of getting more bang for my buck. I've talked about it before on my channel where, before I was a maker and this was my job, I was a customer. And so I tried to make sure that I'm paying attention to those things to kind of stretch my supplies. So here we have the 1 ink blended background and the 2 stamped pieces that have the rainbow ink blending, which I think is just beautiful. I love them. You could even do it like this and just stamp the sentiment and walk away because there's already so much interest. But what I'm going to do is I am going to create a frame. So here I'm using the one on the outside. This is not going to cut down my cardstock because I've already cut it to the correct size, the A2 size, but it is going to put in that diagonal stitch detail right around the outside of the frame. Now, this isn't a double, like sometimes you'll have the double stitch, and I think there is one, like double stitch squares maybe, in this release where it will put the stitch on the inside and the outside. This particular one is not like that. It only puts it on the inside. So here you can see that kind of diagonal stitch. It's much easier, obviously, to see in person, but I tried to raise it up so you could see it. And then I'm going to cut out the middle to create my frame. And when I cut this one out of the middle, it's going to leave me with a clean edge, but then it's also going to leave me with that inside piece that has the diagonal stitching on it. So here's my pieces. Now, you guys know that I love to bring the drama. I love a dramatic look. And in order to help those brights pop off the page, I am going to color in the negative area black. And I'm going to do that with an alcohol marker. I'm using a Copic marker, but you could, for sure, you could use a Sharpie. You could use probably a watercolor, like a water-based marker, but you might just have more streaks. An alcohol marker is for sure more solid. So I'm just going to go through. I find this to be very therapeutic because I enjoy coloring, but I can totally understand if that's not your thing. And if it's not your thing, that's totally fine. You could just use the frame as is without bringing in any of the dramatic color. Alternatively, if you're like black is not for me, you could use a navy, a dark purple, or a dark green. That would really help bring them forward. So I'm going to spare you the coloring of the whole thing, but here it is completed. In addition to coloring the frame, I am going to do the same thing to the middle piece we cut out. And then I'm also going to do the outline around this die cut piece, the full floral. So when you're doing it, you do want to make sure you're getting the edges, and that's true of the frame as well, because once I put this on my black cardstock, any areas that are still white, especially around the edges, will show through. So you do want to make sure that you're getting the edges as well as getting kind of the in-between negative space. So with this, I will say it does kind of blow out the stamp lines that are black. Like, like the way that they're connected, that doesn't really bother me. But if it bothers you, you could maybe overstamp them again with black, or you could stamp them with white to help them show up. That would maybe work as well. So here, this is where I knew I was going to have 2 cards because I have that middle piece. But that card that had the middle piece and the already rainbow done floral piece, I thought would work together. And I didn't end up using them together. So then I had that left over. So I decided to do a black dramatic and then a white kind of light and airy. And that's what you see me doing here. So I'm going to create another frame a little bit smaller. I don't have the I have the edged detail around, like I'll add that later, but I'm also adding it to the one that has this one in the middle. So they all have the edge detail. And then for the white one, I am doing another white rectangle in the center for my flowers to kind of meet. And here, what I'm doing is I'm adding some glitters to the background, the black background, just, as another little eye-catching detail, because I do love all the things that are shimmery. I am adding white highlights to the centers, and that's true across all of the cards. I add those little white highlights. And then I'm going to work on the sentiments. The sentiments are all from the same set, that Always Smiling set, and they all have their own coordinating dies. The one that goes with the light and airy card, I stamped in black, and the other two I did white heat embossing on black cardstock. So, on a personal note, I shared with you guys that it was my little jelly bean's 3rd birthday, and I can't believe she's already 3. We did end up having to move her party. Originally, her party was supposed to be on the 2nd, and then we ended up having to move it to the 9th. That's no big deal, because then she'll just get an extra day to celebrate her, and she'll be so excited about it. So yesterday, the 4 of us, we decided that we were just going to take her out to dinner, and we have I don't know if you guys have them where you are, that's called Yours Truly, but when you order off the kids menu, they get a free scoop of vanilla ice cream. So my in-laws have taken her there a couple of times, so we decided that we were going to take her there as well. And actually she did pretty good. Peanut is older now, and he can kind of engage in more adult conversation. So, we chit-chatted about everybody's day. She was really well behaved. And then she did kind of want to go back and forth between, like, I want to sit with mommy and I want to sit with daddy. And we let that happen twice. And then we put the kibosh on that because we weren't going to be jumping all around. And then, of course, even though we both got pink lemonade, she wanted to drink out of mommy's instead of drinking out of her own. No shock there. But other than that, it was really good. And then for dessert, her little vanilla ice cream, they did, because she always says, I want cream, which is the whipped cream. And that's her brother's fault. Her brother has taught her to put whipped cream on her ice cream sundaes. And then he will also hold it up so she'll open her mouth and he'll squeeze some out for her directly out of the canister, which I wish he wouldn't do because it's kind of yicky, but I guess we're the only 4 people who use it, and I don't eat whipped cream at all. Shockingly, that is one of the things on my list. Like, everybody has foods they don't prefer, and I don't really care for whipped cream. Occasionally, I'll do Cool Whip if it's in a dessert, like it's mixed with a pudding or something like that. But typically, like, when I go, get a coffee, you guys know I'm all about the coffee, like the little foo-foo coffee drinks, when on the rare occasion that I get them instead of regular coffee, I always tell them to hold the whipped cream. Like, I want the caramel drizzle, the chocolate drizzle, whatever, the sprinkling of cinnamon, whatever it is that you want to put on there, hold the whipped cream. I just don't care for it. But my children love it. Love, love, love it. So they get a little dollop on their ice creams. Peanut opted for a root beer float. He's been really into those lately. And then I asked my husband, I said, what do you want that you may have to trade? Because you know how it is with kids. Like, if you order something, they may decide that they want your something versus their something. And he was like, really, I don't care. Just pick one. So he got the apple pie and I got the brownie hot fudge sundae. And shockingly, we did actually get to eat our own desserts. I did have to share the whipped cream on mine with my daughter, but I didn't mind because, like I just said, I don't care for it. So she just kept eating it off by the spoonful, and she barely ate any of her ice cream. She pretty much just ate the cream, the whipped cream. So, but all in all, it was good. I'm excited for her birthday party coming up this weekend. We are having a Taylor Swift party because she loves Taylor Swift. I'll have to see. We did get a little video of her singing. She knows all of the words to most of her songs, and it's pretty adorable, I have to tell you. So here I did pop all of these up on foam. The one that has the middle panel kind of popped up, I backed it. I gave it a little black matte just to give it a little bit more weight. And then I popped that one up. This one, I glued the black one that we just did. I glued the flowers to the frame and then turned it around and added the foam tape behind that. This one is because I didn't want to have to stamp and stencil another one. You guys know how lazy I can be when it comes to crafting. So what I decided to do was just cut them apart. And so I lined it, like I did a straight line where I needed it to tuck into the frame. And then I'm going to use those other two pieces that I've cut off. I'm just erasing my pencil lines. I'm going to arrange them on the other side, like catty corner to it, to fill in that area. Now you also see that little piece of vellum there. I thought that would be an extra texture to add something kind of different. And so I'm using the vellum to connect the two rectangles. So they both have that stitch detail, the one on the outside and the one on the inside. So the actual frame piece and then the full rectangle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue it to this full piece of vellum and then put that rectangle in the middle. And then that way, it has like this little extra bit in between that adds a little bit more interest because it's another texture. And visually, it's something, that's a little bit different. And it will then allow me to pop up the vellum because I can hide it behind the rectangles. So that is what I'm going to do because you guys know, sometimes you just got to pop it up. Like you don't know how, you just know it'll be better even though it's going to be a pain to add all the foam. So that is what I did here. I'm going to add those. And then could I have added the flowers in between the vellum and the frame? Yes, I could have. And that probably would have worked pretty well, but this also worked. So just trimming them down and then adhering them over top. I did let them overlap the outside frame as well as the inside rectangle. I think that again, adds a little bit more interest. And while I do love the drama of the rainbow with the black background, I have to say there's something really, really enjoyable about this one, which with that white neutral background, it really lets the rainbow inking kind of shine. And I really like it. I really do. So I'm hard pressed to pick out which one is my favorite. I would love to know what you guys think. Which one you prefer. I know I love the drama of the dark with the bright colors, but this one's just really I think this one would be really nice for like a wedding card. Just kind of like soft and airy and, just really lets those flowers kind of be the focal point. So anywho, I guess I could give it away because of the sentiment I picked. It's so many reasons to celebrate. I could just save it for, the next time we know somebody who's getting married. So once they were all done and put together, I did go in and add in some rhinestones. These are the Glacier jewels from Pink Fresh. They are by far and away my most used because they are white, but they're iridescent pearly rhinestones. I love them. I want to use them on everything. And I did pull out, you see those other ones. I think they're is it night or starlight or something? I did pull those out just to see, but I actually didn't like them as well. I like the white ones better. So here is a quick recap of all three of the cards. Kind of like the super dramatic, the really light and airy, and then the one that's in the middle. So I hope that this inspires you guys. Don't forget to head over to the blog hop to comment for your chance to win. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.